Welcome and thank you for watching. In this video, I will review 3 considerations to take into account when structuring your online courses. The first consideration is how you organize your course. Consistency is key. You should consider using a consistent format, a consistent location of materials, making them predictable and easy for your students to find, and a consistent sequence of activities. On this Sakai site, you'll see tabs along the side. These are either pages that the students will need or links to outside resources that they'll use. So you can see here in the Assignments tab, all of the different major assignments are included, along with directions, rubrics, exemplars from previous terms, and other such information. There's also a space for the syllabus and weekly modules. So this would be the tasks that students would complete each week. You'll see that each one is clearly labeled with a date, making it easy for students to navigate. You'll also see we have a checklist here, so they know exactly what they need to do for that particular module. And you'll see it's really clearly organized and very simple. There's not an overwhelming lot of content here. You can also add audio clips where you can speak aloud each section, just to add that as another layer to your course. And then there's also links to those outside resources, as I've mentioned. One thing you'll want to make sure you do is to limit the amount of on-screen text and over-foldering, and you want to try to keep it as simple as possible. You'll want to consider using a consistent coloring options and also images that align with your content. So let's take a look at how color and images can be used to enhance how your course is navigated. Now, we'll still talk about organization within this, but we'll also kind of bring in color and symbols and images as well. So take a look at this agenda slide. You'll see that in this particular course, every week you'll have an introduction, you'll have some readings, there'll be some weekly tasks, some work on the major assignments, and then some wrap up. You'll notice that each of those is associated with a different color. You will want to be careful if you do have students with a color difference and cannot distinguish different colors, so try to keep them varied and appropriate based on who your students may be. May also have a more visual version of an agenda. And in this case, we still have colors associated with each of those elements that will take you through one module. But also we have images or symbols that go along with those as well. So if we take a look into this particular course and what's going to happen this week, so again, we had that green color for the introduction, we have this symbol, and then we have the text introduction, and then here's where you'll say what's going to happen this particular week. You may also want to include your objectives for the week as well, what the students are expected to learn during this particular module. After they go through the introduction, you'll move to the readings. So this is where they'll find out what they have to read this week. So you'll have the weekly readings posted and directions. You may also include links directly to the readings right here. And you'll also want to include a suggested time limit. This will help them kind of gauge how much time they're spending on each activity because it's very easy when you're doing things asynchronous online to spend much more time than you need to on particular activities. You'll also note that on this slide, the colors with the purple match with the reading colors as well. So that kind of builds that consistency. And as the course goes on over the weeks, students will begin to associate certain images and colors with certain activities. So when they see this purple, they know, oh yes, that's readings. Then moving into the next element, which is the weekly tasks. So you'll see here as well, I still have that time limit. So this particular task will take 20 minutes. You can give it a title here, have the task clearly outlined. So you want to make sure that it's very clear what they're expected to do. And then you also want to make it clear what needs to be submitted. So is this a task that they're going to be doing just kind of on their own and they're not actually going to submit anything? You may need to make mention of that under submission, or are they going to create some type of product and then have to submit it somewhere? You'll also want to reference a due date if your particular course has kind of staggered due dates over the course of the week rather than kind of one due date at the end of the week. Even still, it's a good idea to kind of be very, very clear and also very, very simple. You don't want to make this overly wordy. So you would have as many tasks as you would need for your particular course that they would go through. And again, it's important to have that time, that suggested time limit, just so they know that they're spending the appropriate amount of time on that particular task. So in this course next, we have the major assignments. So again, here, this looks very similar to the tasks, but you'll see that we'll have the title of the major assignment. We still have the time limit, but now everything is pink to go along and match with the color that was designated to the major assignments. So this way, as they're moving through this particular online course and they are seeing each of these slides, they know exactly what they have to do in terms of time. They have everything laid out. They know when the due date is. And then they also begin to associate, oh, this is a major assignment. I'm working on one portion of it. We're going to work on 30 minutes this week. Maybe next week it'll be an hour, whatever it is based on the assignment. For your wrap up, it is important to kind of give them some of that structure for how the course is built overall and what's coming up in the next weeks. So if you have a course outline where you have the weeks listed along with what the topics are, what assignments are due that week, any readings that are due. So I just threw in an example here from a previous course. What you can do is you can put a block over the weeks that have passed, and you could change the opacity so that you can still see it, but you know that those are the weeks that have passed. We've got the arrow to designate the week that we're currently on, but then they can see everything that's coming up ahead. So it's important at that end of the week for them to get that sense, just to help with that long-term planning, because that could be something that a lot of students struggle with in terms of online courses. Now, lastly, you're going to want to include multiple means of representation. Sometimes it's really easy in an online course just to put everything in text and then expect that we're going to get it that way. But according to Universal Design for Learning theory, we do want to include those multiple modes of representation for our students. So if we have our weekly reading slide, which looks like this, we have our text, which is one mode of representation, but we could also add audio. So you could speak aloud the directions, or you could possibly have a video in which you are explaining the directions as well. Now, for something as simple as the weekly readings, you might not necessarily want to use video with that, but if you are doing a major assignment, you might actually want to have a video where it's you narrating, and then on screen you have different components of the assignment that you're talking about to kind of bring in those extra layers. So that's something else to consider. How can you capitalize on audio and video to enhance what you've already have there in text? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that these considerations will be helpful to you in designing your online course.